Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make a DIY Dollar Tree Skele-Gro Harry Potter inspired Halloween craft. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you know about Skele-Gro. First we're going to need this 12-inch skeleton from the Dollar Tree. Any type of upcycled bottle that you can get your hands on. You want it to be big enough to accommodate the rib cage. Some spray paint in black I'm using, plus some ivory craft paint to go over it, as well as your X-Acto knife and scissor. And then this label was from Google Images, but I just used it. I hand wrote it because I think that looks a little bit more witchy brewy. But I just used it for exactly what was on the Skele-Gro bottle. Okay. So first of all, we're going to dissect this skeleton. I think this is my new favorite Halloween thing to do, is to dissect skeletons. This one works almost like the old Barbie dolls where you just snap his head off. It's a little ball and joint head. And you take the little hanger off. He's got a little loop hanger on the top of his head. Just use your X-Acto knife or a sharp scissor and go ahead and take that off. And then I'm just showing you how on different bottles it will have a different effect. If you have like a cork bottle, say you might want to cut a hole up in his head. I have this bottle, was an old salad dressing bottle from Aldi. This is what I decided to use. The head sat perfectly on top of it. This is one of those crafts that you go ahead and make it your own. Whatever bottle you have that you can upcycle. The variety that I picked was an old olive oil bottle, a salad dressing bottle. That one squeeze bottle from Heinz ketchup would have worked. And then the one bottle with the topper was actually from the Dollar Tree. If you want to go ahead and buy one, you can. This skeleton, the actual Skele-Gro model, the rib cage is actually completely encasing the bottle. This skeleton from the Dollar Tree, the bottle would not be big enough. Any bottle would not be small enough, excuse me. You wouldn't be able to see the details in the bottle if we tried to make it small enough to fit inside this rib cage, because it's a Dollar Tree item and it's not really meant, the rib cage is actually not even hollow like a rib cage. It's enclosed on the top and the bottom, so we're going to cut that apart. But now I'm just gluing the head on there, and I don't think I could tell you about it while you're watching me use the glue, the hot glue gun. I'm using Gorilla Glue sticks because that's my new favorite, and whenever I do anything that's not just paper or fabric to fabric, it's going to be a glue stick. Or flowers, I should say. It's going to be a Gorilla Glue stick. So what I did was, and this wasn't on my original list, was I had the jute from the four little hanging skeletons left over, and I just decided to wrap it around the black part. But the black part would have looked perfectly fine. It was just me being like OCD. But if you have a bottle cap that you don't like, if it's plastic and you want to hide it, I just wanted to show you that there's options. You can just take some raffia or jute or some kind of ribbon or any kind of decorative paper, and you can go ahead and cover the lid if you want. But anyway, back to what I was saying is I didn't think that that this was still going to look like a Skele-Gro bottle, especially once we put the label on it. And what really makes it Skele-Gro, as far as I'm concerned, is the head on the bottle and the rib cage going around it. The different, like when I searched different people's ideas of how they did a Skele-Gro bottle, they're all different. I mean, it's just a matter of interpretation. But I think that as long as it was bone colored and it had a label and it had a skull on the head, those were the things that kept it the same. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm dissecting the rib cage. I've decided to keep a little bit of the spinal column on the top and the bottom just to add for a little bit of fact. This isn't actually on the original Skele-Gro bottle. On the bottom, I believe there's instruction labels, but I didn't want to go that step further, so I just went ahead and I left the rib cage going up. I mean, the spinal column going up in the back of the rib cage. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my X-Acto knife, and again, you can use utility knife from the Dollar Tree. They have the retractable blade. You can also use a very sharp scissor, and I want to show you here that this plastic is kind of soft and it will cut with the scissor. But for me, an X-Acto knife, I've been using it so long, it's just easy for me to wield. What I'm doing is I'm cutting off the top of the rib cage where the factory had enclosed it to make it an open rib cage again. And because my bottle was bigger than this rib cage, I needed to take out the sternum. So that's the breastbone that's going between the two sets of ribs. I've taken that out as well. Okay. And I'm just cutting gently along the way just to not, cut off any ribs or anything. Um, and just be careful, There you go, and there you have it, and it's just going to hug around. I took off cut up the elbow joints so it would hug a little bit smoother around the round bottle, and I test dry fit it, always dry fit, right? And this is where I realized I actually wanted to leave the spine, but I wanted to cut just the back of the spine. The spine column in this skeleton is like a straw. It's like a tube. So I just wanted the back piece to be on there. And I wanted to show you how it would fit on other bottles. And this bottle is square, and how would you fit it on the square, and different ones, different ways. You can also get other skeletons this size and bigger at the Dollar Tree. I've seen them. I've seen them at Michael's too. Not the Dollar Tree. I'm sorry, at Walmart or Michael's too, with an open rib cage. So if you wanted to spend a little bit more money for the more authentic looking Skele-Gro bottles, you go right ahead. You can also print the labels off of the internet as well. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm just cutting off the inside part of the skeleton. I'm cutting around the coccyx. I knew I was going to say coccyx. I was so excited to say that, which is the tailbone. I'm cutting the tailbone off the hips. And then I'm going to cut the front off of the spine at the top. And I'm also taking off the little knob that actually held the head because I wanted to look more like a spine and not like a doll. Okay, and now the top. And cut that little ball off. And then I'll show you, you can actually take your scissor and go up that little... I just wanted it to lay flat. I wanted it to be able to glue it flat so it actually hugs the bottom and the back of the bottle. I knew when I had this bottle from Aldi's salad dressing leftover that this is exactly what I wanted to do for this craft. I wanted to make my own Skele-Gro. I have an apothecary tray, which is the centerpiece of my dining room table this year. And I'm going to show you some more apothecary jars that I've done. But I just wanted to add this to it. So that's why I was so excited to do it and to show it to you guys. So now I'm just making it fit. So you go ahead and make it fit. If you pick a bottle that's shorter and you need to take the spinal column off, you can. If you like the ribs closed in the front to have more of that Skele-Gro actual bottle look, you can cut the spinal column off the back and just leave the openness on the back. That is your 100% personal preference. You do you. So what I'm doing is I'm using the Gorilla Glue sticks, and I'm just putting a ton of glue in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of I had a piece of burlap laying around, but anything like heavy duty rubber bands, a piece of ribbon, anything, we're going to tie it around the bottle, and we're just going to let it set the best we can, a couple of hours, so that the glue really does work itself in here. And don't forget to clean your bottle first, because if you have grease on your bottle, the glue won't stick as well, that kind of stuff. But I did notice that sometimes the ribs started to want to come off. That's why I decided to tie the thing around there so it would hold a little bit better. So I didn't have the patience to just sit there and hold it all day. I had other DIYs to do for you guys. All right, and I've glued the top of the spinal column to like where the curvature of the bottle goes, so it'll look a little bit more like a neck. And then here I am. I'm just going to tie this piece of burlap ribbon around it just to hold it. And like I said, I'm going to leave it for a couple hours. And set it off aside. Just make sure it's tight, and try to cover all the pieces that you want. And then just set it off to the side. And then a couple hours later, we'll come back and we'll unwrap it. Oh, never mind. First, we're going to make the label. Sometimes I forget what I'm doing. So I have this piece of paper. I don't know if you saw it from my lighted globe. It was actually like a parchment paper for resumes that I have in my paper collection. It's from Staples. They do sell this type of paper at Walmart too. And I've decided to use it because it does have an aged look. And like I said, I am just going to handwrite this label. I held the piece of paper up to the bottle to see exactly how tall I can make it, and I ended up making it too tall anyway, but that's okay. I'll show you how to fix that. And then I'm spacing the letters out like we did before. And again, I'm just handwriting it. Because if you watch the Harry Potter movies, or if you are into like watching any of the like tutorials on potions and stuff, those labels are always handwritten. I know that Skele-Gro is supposed to be something that's made in a, like, not a factory, but mass marketed, so it would have like an official label. But for me, I was just happy to just make a handmade label. But just look up Skele-Gro, Skele hyphen GRO label on Google Images, and you can go ahead and print your own. And depending on what size bottle you pick will depend on what size you need to make the label. Okay, and you see here I'm just handwriting, and I used the thin, the fine point felt tip marker that I got at the Dollar Tree, which by the way I love. Review, thank you very much. And then for the word Skele-Gro, I used my regular Sharpie. And then I just erased the line that I used around it just so it wouldn't show up. Now I'm going to cut it out, which I know silly, right? But I'm going to show you a couple of different edging techniques. So one of those, you could just take a Sharpie and you can just run a Sharpie along its edge. Use the flat edge of the Sharpie and you put it against the, oh, there's lighting. And use the flat edge of the Sharpie and just put it against the flat edge of the paper. And that just gives it a worn, blackened look. Okay? The next one is we're going to tear. You're going to tear a little bit at a time, and you're going to tear up one of the sides, and you'll see it'll leave like that very, very raw edge. This is the one that takes the most practice and skill. We're going to burn the edges. You get to set it on fire real quick, almost like a marshmallow, and then you blow it right out. Now, don't try this at home. No, I'm kidding. Try this at home, but be very careful. If you have not done this before, do it over the sink, my recommendation. Don't do it over the garbage can, because sometimes there's garbage in there that's flammable. And then the other technique is the rip sides, but then you color in the rip sides with the black Sharpie. That's the best way to attain the burnt look without actually using any fire. The fire is actually the fastest way to do it. But if you want to attain that look without the danger, like if you're doing this with your kids, then go ahead and do the torn paper. Remember just to tear a little bit at a time, and then blacken it in with the Sharpie. Okay? And now we're going to set that aside. And now we're going to unwrap the jar, and it's all glued nice and tight. And we're going to take it to outside to go spray paint it. And originally I was going to spray paint this ivory and then antique it, but then I realized I was out of ivory spray paint. So guess what? 97-cent Dollar Tree spray paint. Here we go. So I wanted to show you guys, and I've been talking about this for a long time with Jim, but there's a difference between distressed and antiqued. And what I'm going to show you here is antiqued. And distressed is when you sand paint away in the worn areas. Antiqued is almost dirty. I mean, it's where you get quote unquote tarnish in the grooves. So I want to show you that if we spray paint this whole thing black, we'll let it dry and bring it inside. We're going to do a really great, easy dry brush technique. You take a foam brush, you take the smallest amount of paint. I know we've dry brushed other things before, but you're going to just take, this is actually buttercream is the name of this paint. And it's from American something. Yeah, it's not from Walmart. I've had it in my collection for a long time. I just bought ivory paint. You guys know it. I did all my pumpkins in ivory paint, and it is missing. But I want to show you that this is the best next color. So you just dry brush over the ribs. Now here's the trick. If the seam or the indent is going horizontal, you brush vertical. If the seam is going vertical, you brush horizontal, because you don't want the paint to get in the grooves. In the grooves, you want it to stay black and dirty, okay? And that's the same thing with the bottle. Anywhere that would have collected dirt or collected tarnish that's hard to polish as you use it is going to stay black, and everything else will get painted ivory, okay? And then because I didn't spray paint the skull, I just take the same paint in a minute, and I'm just going to dry brush over the skull's white areas just to make them more cohesive with each other and to make them match a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm just going, and again, you just like all the things we talk about, do a little bit at a time. You can always add more. It's much easier to add 2 or 3 light coats than to make one heavy coat and don't like it, and then trying to get paint back off again. All right? So then I was like, I think, yeah, a little bit more. So I went back and I wanted the bottle part, not so much the rib cage part, but the bottle part, I wanted it to be a little bit more ivory. Now, what's also a technique you could try is once you put the label on, you can dry brush over the label to give it a more worn effect. I didn't want to go for that, but that's something that you can also choose to do if you want, okay? And, just a little bit over here and there. So if you see, that's the difference. This is called antiquing, where you have darkness in the ridges. If we were distressing this, we would sand the ridges. I mean, darkness in the valleys. If it was distressing, we would sand the ridges. Let me start over. This is called antiquing. That means we have darkness in the valleys. If it is distressing, we sand the ridges. Okay, that's better. Explain it very well. Thank you. And now just going to take a second to set the bottle off to dry and dry brush the skull, as I mentioned. Make sure not to get it in the eyes and the nose so that you can keep those dark areas dark. I even got some on the jute and it's fine. It looks totally just worn and like somebody made this bottle and wasn't paying attention at the factory that day. And I'm just cleaning up my table. I'm actually using, I know, I'm so lazy. This is the burlap. I'm actually using it almost like sandpaper to clean the paint off the table. But I'll wash it when I'm all done. I didn't wait very long for it to dry. It is acrylic spray paint. It is a flat acrylic spray paint with acrylic paint over it. It dries super duper fast. And I'm just taking hot glue on my label, but be careful because it's paper and paper does get hot. You can feel the heat through the paper, so be careful with that. And as you can see, I didn't make it proper. I made it too big, and I'm just cutting around the rib cage, so it almost looks like the label was going under the rib cage. And just secure it and finish to the edges. And now that you're all paying attention, you will see the mistake that I made. What did I do before that I just randomly did and I never even thought twice about it? Oh yeah, that's right. I glued the skull on the cap. Jerry, did you pay attention to which direction the face was fading? Nope, I didn't. So, full disclosure, don't watch this whole tutorial before you go ahead and make this, because I ended up just ripping the head off and re-gluing it in the position where it needed to be. Make sure you put your cap on before you glue your skull so it's lined up with your rib cage. Oh man, that's great. I love it. Okay, so yeah, now I'm going to let that dry again. Learn from my mistakes, people. Learn from my mistakes. And there he is. I think it came out super cute. So I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Any question. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, join the family. And when you do, a little bell will pop up. Ring that bell and YouTube will let you know when I upload a video. And share this with friends and family. Anybody you know who's interested in making one of these for Halloween or a big Harry Potter fan. All right? And as always, you take care. God bless. See you next time. Bye.